Is that the fence right here? See that?
go. Deardail, maybe this evening we'll get a radiation.
Oh, that's amazing.
just think it's, if there's only limited space, and there's people who live at West Highland Way and they're taking up a lot.
mate. That's good though.
Good.
Unbelievable.
That's an amazing view.
Ready?
It's delicious.
You just tell yourself that, pal. That brownie's going to be banging. Oh, that is good.
This might be the best blackjack I've ever tasted.
I can't even enjoy this brownie anymore after tasting that. Ruining my day.
This is the West Highland Way, so it starts at Glasgow and ends at Lowland.
Do you want to steal it? Yeah, I'll do it. Here you go.
Let's go for a pint. Welcome back, I'm Kim.
I'm Del.
We are going the whole hog, and you've just been watching our walk on the West Highland Way, which is Scotland's most famous long distance walking trail, but it was the first time doing it for us.
If you're interested in doing the West Highland Way yourself, we've written up a number of detailed guides over on our blog, goingthewholehog.com. We've covered absolutely everything you need to know to plan your own hike.
If you want to read those guides, just click the links up here and you will find them. We will tell you a little bit more about the West Highland Way just now though, and go into some more detail about our own experience on it. So the West Highland Way is a 96 mile or about 154 kilometre walk. It starts in Milngavie on the outskirts of Glasgow and takes you to Fort William in the Highlands. So it's a walk that goes from the lowlands to the Highlands, passing through a variety of scenery, and it usually takes most people about 5 to 8 days, something like that. Some crazy people run it in like ultra races and take about 15 hours. Other people might take 2 weeks to walk it, just chilling out along the way or going at their own pace. Personally, we walked it over about 7.5 days.
The best time to do this is from spring until autumn. It is possible to do it in winter as well, but like only if you're very, very experienced and you have all the right gear.
Yeah.
Summertime can be a bit of an issue with midges, the local beasties that come out to play, but you get good weather and long days.
Yeah, I think the best time to walk it is probably around about the time that we did it, so end of April into May, or a little bit later in the season around September time is also a good time. That way you're avoiding sort of the busiest holiday periods, you're avoiding the worst of the midges, you've still got long daylight hours, and the weather is usually good, although it's Scotland, so you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I think if you'd done it a little bit later than we did it, sort of into May, you get a bit more of the spring feel, so the flowers would be coming out, the trees would be budding more. It still had a bit of a wintry atmosphere when we were doing it.
Although there was tons of lambs, so we definitely had some spring vibes going on.
Well, we had lambs, that's for sure.
So the way that we did it was by carrying all of our own gear and wild camping every night, but that is certainly not the only way to do it. There are campsites along the way, so if you want to camp but with facilities, that's possible, and a lot of people also stay in accommodation. So there are plenty of hostels, B&Bs, guest houses, hotels on every stage of the West Highland Way. So you absolutely do not have to camp on this trail. You can definitely stay indoors every night. And you don't even have to carry your own bag if you don't want to, because there's baggage transfer services who will take your bag, your main big bag, to hotels or to campsites along the way, and that way you can just walk with a little day pack, which is what a lot of people do actually.
A lot of people.
And it would definitely make your life a bit easier, but it does mean that you don't have the flexibility of being able to stop wherever you want. You do need to stick to the schedule that you've given the baggage transfer people.
In terms of accommodation as well, there's something to suit every budget. So if you want something a bit fancier and really comfortable, there's plenty of that. If you want something a bit more basic, then there's options there too.
Yeah. In terms of food and drink along the way, again, it's a very well set up route. There are restaurants, there are shops where you can resupply, there's cafes, there's little honesty boxes and things like that all along the way. There's water taps available, although on some stretches the only water sources are natural streams, so it's a good idea to have a water purification method with you. We were using our trusty Steady Pen so that we could take water from wherever we wanted. So I think the main thing about the West Highland Way is that it's a very versatile trail and it's very accessible for lots of different people, lots of different experience levels. You will see kids walking it, you will see, people in their 80s walking it, and you will see people that are very experienced and have done lots of things like this before, but also plenty of people where this is their first time doing something like this. Because it's very easily accessible, you don't have to carry your bag, you can stay in accommodation every night, you can get to the trailheads by public transport, or you can get to numerous places along the way by public transport as well. So you can even break the journey up into multiple days, do it over, a few months if you wanted, just at the weekends or something like that.
Yeah, and if you're doing it all in one, then you can tailor it to suit your needs. As we mentioned at the very start, you don't have to do it in 5 days.
Yeah.
You can do it in 8 or more if you want to take it a little bit more slowly.
Yeah, so you will see all different kinds of people on the West Highland Way. You'll see people from Scotland, you'll also see lots of international hikers. And actually, the most that we've heard about the West Highland Way is from people that we've met around the world. Usually, if you tell them you're from Scotland, the first thing they'll say is Braveheart, second thing is whiskey, And if they are into walking, the third thing they'll know about is the West Highland Way. So kind of why we figured this is the first long distance trail we need to do when we come back. So we'll tell you a little bit more about our own West Highland Way itinerary, the kind of day-to-day experience for us.
On day one, we went from Milngavie to Drymen. It's about 12 miles or 19 kilometres.
So it's a really easy introduction to the West Highland Way. There's no kind of big elevation gain or loss on day one. It's no tricky terrain. You're kind of just leaving Milngavie on the outskirts of Glasgow, walking through countryside, through farming land, past some lochs, past a whisky distillery, which you can nip into if you fancy a little tour. We've been there before, so we didn't bother. Actually, that was the day that we got engaged.
It was.
Up on Dhuinne, which was the big volcanic plug that you saw us walking towards. But anyway, yeah, we had just had an easy day getting into the swing of things, getting our feet into the rhythm of walking, and we were planning to camp somewhere in the forest beyond Drymen on the first night, but we actually walked past a perfect little wild camp spot just on the outskirts of Drymen. There was a couple of other people sort of camping near the burn as well, and we just pitched up there and it was ideal.
On day two, we went from Drymen to the permit camping zone just before Rannoch. It was 14.5 miles, about 23 kilometres.
Day two is definitely a bit more challenging than day one. You have a climb up Connacht Hill, and then there's a fair bit of up and down as you're going along Loch Lomond itself. But it was an absolutely gorgeous day, and it felt like we were starting to get that real wow feeling from the walk itself. So going up Connacht Hill, it's a bit of a climb, but it's not too steep and it's pretty gradual as you're going up. It was nothing too difficult.
Yeah, nothing too major.
And the views from the top were absolutely amazing. So gorgeous views over Loch Lomond, all the little islands that are in the loch, and yeah, it's a nice little introduction to the next couple of days when you're going to be walking up the entire Loch Lomond shore. It's a popular day hike in itself going up Connacht Hill, so you can expect it to be a bit busy if you're there at the weekend or if it's a nice sunny day or a bank holiday or something like that.
Yeah, from the top of Connacht Hill, it's a bit of a steep descent at first on the open hillside. Then you reach a forest, lovely forest area, and soon you arrive in Balmaha itself, which is a great place to either stay the night if your itinerary was different from us, or just to get lunch, which many people do. We had lunch at the Oak Tree Inn, and that was pretty good.
It was very good. I enjoyed my mac and cheese immensely.
Yeah, I think I had a burger and it was decent.
We considered a pint and then thought better of it because we still had a fair bit to go to get to our permit zone camping area, and that was a good decision, I think, because there was, like I said, a fair bit of up and down, gorgeous little sections along the shore where there's all these like pebble beaches, in and out of forest, and it was a little bit tiring just because you are sort of doing this, but it was very impressive, and we were both really surprised at how much we loved the Loch Lomond section. We lived in Glasgow for years and we're no strangers to Loch Lomond. You know, we've driven up the west side of it so many times, but this was our first time going to the east side, and we were amazed at just how gorgeous that section is.
Yeah, it was the start of even better things to come, I think, as you went even further up the eastern shore.
Yeah, exactly. So as we said, we wild camped the whole way on this hike, and wild camping is legal in Scotland as long as you follow the Scottish Outdoor Access Code. But there is one part of the whole country where there are some bylaws in place and you're not allowed to wild camp, and that is within the Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park. So between March and September there are these, there's a camping management zone in place, and between roughly Balmaha and Rannoch you are within that camping management zone. So you're not allowed to just pitch up anywhere you like. You need to either stay in a designated campsite or get a permit for the permit camping zone, which is exactly what we did. Mm-hmm. Now, I would tell you the name of it, but I actually have no idea how to pronounce it. It is Lochan, Maoil,
Dhuinne, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. It's just before Rannoch, and you can only get 5 permits a day for camping there. I got ours in about 3 weeks before or something like that. So
wasn't it the last one as
yeah,
well?
they do sell out. It's only £4, but they do sell out, so you need to be a little bit organised if you want to stay there. It is basically wild camping though, because there are no facilities. So you are just camping on the little beach next to the loch. There's nowhere for the toilet or to collect fresh water or anything like that, so you do need to be prepared.
On day 3 we went from that permit camping zone just before Rannoch to a lochside camp not far before Inversnaid. For us it was about 7 miles that day, roughly 11 kilometres.
We had planned on going quite a bit further that day and camping somewhere around Ardleash, But I ended up, out of the blue, getting this bad hip pain. It kind of seized up and I was actually really struggling to put weight on my legs. So when we saw that nice little pebble beach not long before Inversnaid, out of necessity we just had to stop, rest my hip, do some exercises and hope that our entire West Highland Way walk was not in jeopardy. As it turned out, everything was fine and it was one of the best days that we had on the trail. So I think that section between Rowerden and Inversnaid is one of the highlights of the entire West Highland Way. It was absolutely gorgeous on the low road that goes along by the shore. If you hear anything about taking a high road route because it's quicker or it's easier, don't listen to it. Absolutely follow the signposts and just stick to the low road because it was gorgeous.
It was gorgeous and it wasn't particularly tricky. It was great.
Yeah. So we called it quits at that beachside camp and met the famous Lochan feral goats while we were there.
Yeah, lots of them.
I was very amused by them. So basically, I was like, what on earth is with these goats? Like, I couldn't understand where they'd come from or why they were there. They didn't seem like they belonged to anyone, and I was a little bit confused. But later on, further up near the end of the trail, I actually read one of the official signs. And it turns out I think they're left over from the Highland clearances. So basically these goats were just been roaming around for like the last couple of 100 years. Obviously not the same goats, must be their offspring. But yeah, they're quite the sight. Look out for them along Loch Lomond. You'll probably smell them before you see them, to be fair. They're absolutely reeking. But yeah, they provided us with some entertainment and it was a pleasure to see them.
They were good company and I had to steer one or two of them away from the tent just to be
Goat
sure.
management technique.
Just to be sure, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a great sunset and yeah, all in all a good camp.
Yeah, I'd say it was actually my favourite camp of the whole trip. So I'm kind of glad that I got that random hip pain and we had to stop.
On day 4 we went from that lochside camp spot before Inversnaid to a forest camp spot not long before Tyndrum. It was about 15 miles for us, 24 kilometres.
So because we'd stopped earlier the day before, we were kind of feeling the pressure on ourselves to try and catch up with our intended itinerary and cover quite a lot of ground today. So we tried to get an early start, knowing that the section that was ahead of us was one of the most tricky sections of the whole route. And it's true that it's a bit more slow going because again, you're on that sort of footpath along the shore where you've got a lot of tree roots to deal with, you've got a lot of rocks and so on. But for us, like we said, this is one of the most interesting and beautiful sections of the whole route and we really, really enjoyed it. So we passed through Inversnaid early in the morning, saw the waterfalls there, and then I'd say the most difficult lochside section really only lasted for about 1 mile right towards the end of Loch Lomond bit. Where we were kind of, climbing up and down some boulders, and I could imagine that in wet weather that would be quite slippery and a bit more tricky going. So I think my advice would be don't worry about it, but do just assume that it's going to take you longer than other sections would for the same distance. Like it's going to be a bit slower going,
Yeah, you just need to take care and go at your own pace.
Yeah. And then we went past Dhuinne, which is an open bothy. You're welcome to sleep over in there if you want. That's where I kind of grabbed the chairs out to try and rest my weary feet, deal with my blisters. And then we headed down towards Benglass Farm, which for many people is their end point of this route. They will set up camp there or stay in the glamping pods there. But we had to just stop at Benglass Farm for some lunch, nip to the shop, got some bread rolls, and ploughed on towards Tyndrum to try and make up this distance. I would say after leaving the Loch Lomond section, it's for the next sort of day or two, it's quite straightforward. Possibly a bit of a filler section.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice enough, but nothing too spectacular. So
Yeah.
after Benglass Farm, you're following the River Falach. You go past the falls, but you can't really see all that much. Through some like open hillside. It's okay. You cross under the road and then the views open up a little bit more as you're going up the other side of the valley. I think it's nice enough, but nothing too spectacular.
Yeah, so we kind of just plodded on and you get to the forest section above Crean Larach and we were on the lookout for a wild camp spot, and there were quite a few, but they were already taken. We were like, oh no, where are we going to stay? And we were very thankful to find one shortly after a big stream over the bridge that we crossed there, before we started descending down through the forest towards Tyndrum. So it was a late one, I think. Maybe it was like 8 o'clock or something till we got in that night.
7:45, yeah.
It was a good 12-hour day for us from start to finish, including a couple of hours at Ben Glass Farm having lunch. Yeah.
Having lunch, charging batteries, doing various things. But yeah, it was the camp spot we had in the forest. I thought was a good camp spot in the end. It was fun.
So it turned out fine.
On day 5, we went from that forest camp before Tyndrum to a camp just on the edge of Rannoch Moor, a little bit beyond Inversnaid. It was about 15.5 miles for us, around 25 kilometres, so a long day.
Yes, it was a long day, so we got an early start, and we basically just ploughed down the hill and into Tyndrum because we had a few bits and bobs that we wanted to do there. One, I was dying for a shower. I knew that there was a shower at the Green Welly, which turned out to be excellent. £2.50 I think it was for 10 minutes of glorious hot water. He didn't bother.
I didn't have one.
Doesn't mind being a skanko, but I really wanted to wash my hair, which was minging. Some of us don't have to worry about hair. And he went off to the Real Food Cafe where we'd eaten before, knew was excellent, and did not disappoint. Excellent breakfast you had, eh?
Excellent breakfast, and then I had a bacon roll afterwards as well.
I had even better fish and chips. Award-winning fish and chips, I might add, and it was superb. So basically, we just had some stuff to do in the morning, stock up on supplies at the shop and whatnot.
Yeah, so us and every other hiker on the trail had been expecting rain that day.
Yeah.
And it came as predicted.
Yeah.
It was started by the time that we left Tyndrum, so we just put the waterproofs on, got prepared and made our way towards Bridge of Orchy. So we didn't really film that much on that stage of the journey, just managed to get a couple of clips.
It is also, again, I would say nice enough, but nothing too special. It was kind of just like, okay, get from A to B. But after refueling with some cake and coffee and ginger beer at Bridge of Orchy, the really nice section, I would say, started. Bridge of Orchy to Inversnaid, and then everything that came after basically was another one of the highlights of the route for us. Oh, and when we left Bridge of Orchy, we were just about to enter the forest, and there was a guy behind us, and he was just like, do I know you guys? And I'm thinking, we met earlier on the trail, because you're always bumping into the same people, right? And I was like, no, I don't think so. And he's like, oh, you're going the whole hog. I've seen all of your Georgia videos, which was really quite funny for us because, we're there just walking this trail in Scotland, and we did not expect to be recognised for hiking videos that we'd made from Georgia, so that was quite funny. So Martin, if you're watching, hiya.
Hi Martin.
So we had a wee blether with him, and then carried on up over the hill and down towards Inversnaid, and yeah, I was just loving it from here on in. The views were absolutely incredible. We'd finally left the road behind. You've maybe noticed in the film that even when we were sort of camping by the loch and everything, you can always hear the sound of traffic, because basically the trail is always within earshot or within view of the road which goes up there. And when you leave Bridge of Orchy, this is kind of the first time that you're like saying goodbye to the road for a while. Great
views of, was it Loch Tulla?
Yeah.
As we were coming down towards Inversnaid. And then we were glad to get to Inversnaid because we'd heard so much about the food at the hotel there. And
side note, I'd phoned ahead while we were in the Real Food Cafe to book dinner. So that was also part of getting me through the day. It's raining, it could be totally miserable, but actually this was one of my favourite days just because we had so much food to look forward to.
It was a day of food, from everything that we had in Tyndrum to Bridge of Orchy to the Inversnaid Hotel. We ate a lot. We definitely covered our calorie intake.
I couldn't even finish my fish or my dinner that day, which was actually more fish because I had salmon.
I finished it.
And that is so unlike me. I would never leave a little bit of food for him. I'd be like, get your own, mate. I am polishing that off, but I was so full from all the delicious food I've been eating that day, and it got me through the rain. Inversnaid Hotel, if you're going to eat at one place on the whole of the West Highland Way, make a reservation for dinner there. It was so good.
We had considered camping at the informal camping area just a few hundred metres beyond the hotel. It's quite popular, but there was a lot of tents there, and we just fancied pushing on a bit further. So that's what we did, maybe a couple of miles at most.
East of Rannoch Moor.
Yeah, on the very edge of Rannoch Moor.
I think stags and deer are quite common around Inversnaid, so you'll probably get lucky and see one or more as well if you're around
Had to
there.
be quick with the camera there. On day 6, we went from our camp on the edge of Rannoch Moor to a camp just beyond the top of the Devil's Staircase. It was for us around 14 miles that day, roughly 22 kilometres.
We'd really been looking forward to this day. We knew it was going to be one of the best days for scenery, and it did not disappoint. We woke up to a little bit of kind of rain, drizzle, mist, but it cleared by the time that we got to Babridge on Rannoch Moor. The sun came out and it was just glorious. Crossing Rannoch Moor is special in itself. You've got this kind of vast area of nothing, just moorland, but it's really, really impressive, and all these little sort of streams and stuff running through it is really gorgeous. And then you come around the corner when you're approaching Glencoe and you've just got Buccaleative Moor staring at you, and it's so dramatic, and you know, it's such a famous glen. Everyone knows Glencoe. We've been there so many times. It's a very atmospheric place, and it's the first time that we've actually kind of walked through it, and for us that was really, really, really nice. It took us ages to get down to King's House because we just kept stopping to photograph Blackrock Cottage, which was the really nice whitewashed cottage, stopping to photograph every different angle of Buccaleative Moor.
The fact is the views change like
Yeah.
every few metres,
Yeah.
so it really is a place that you can just stop, take more pictures, stop, take more pictures. So yeah, if you're that way inclined, it's hard to like keep your pace going.
Yeah, exactly. So we got to King's House and filled up water there. I had a little peek in the free public showers there. Not free, they're paid public showers, but you can access them
They're
for
public.
free. And yeah, I was glad that I showered in Tyndrum. They were a bit minging in there, to be honest. So we just sort of pushed on, had a picnic lunch, and then started the ascent up the Devil's Staircase, which puts fear into a lot of people, and I can understand that with a name like the Devil's Staircase. But honestly, it is not something to worry about. It is something to look forward to, because the views are absolutely spectacular climbing up to the pass there. You're just looking back down over Glencoe. Yes, it's a wee bit challenging. It's quite steep. It is the highest point of the whole trail. So go at your own pace, take it slow, and savour those amazing views that you get from the top.
Our plan for that day had been to camp somewhere just beyond the Devil's Staircase. We'd had our eye on a couple of streams, thinking that we might be able to get an area close to one of them, and one of those worked out pretty well. On day 7, we went from our riverside camp before Kinlochleven to a camp just below the old Deardail fort, looking across to Ben Nevis. It was around 14 miles, maybe 23 kilometres.
Because there's no accommodation or campsites between Kinlochleven and Fort William, or Glen Nevis just before Fort William, for most people this is done as their very last day, but we knew that we wanted to just camp before getting down into Glen Nevis so that we could just finish the trail the next morning and take public transport back from Fort William and not have to spend the night in Fort William itself. So for us, we just again got up early, woke up to some mist, which was really quite atmospheric, and it was just a case of sort of charging down the road down into Kinlochleven, where we knew we could get some breakfast and stock up at the co-op before just carrying on with our day. I was extremely gutted that the Ice Factor Cafe had run out of bacon. It's all I'd wanted for like the week before. I was like, bacon roll, and then we got there and she's like, sorry, I'm out of bacon, because the bikers had been in town. It had been the motorcycle trials, and they'd absolutely cleared out the co-op shelves.
There was
all
hardly
the
anything
bacon.
on the shelves.
Yeah, it was a disaster. And then I was like put on the spot and made some breakfast choices that were, you know, regrettable. But anyway, we got some food. It was a nice cafe. It was a good stock up in the co-op on crisps, which were a real highlight of my lunch that day. And then we headed out of Kinlochleven to start the climb up to the Larrig Moor, which I would say was another highlight. Absolutely loved it.
The climb or the Larrig?
Both.
Yeah, the climb is nice through some really beautiful forests, and you get little breaks in the trees where you can get views of Kinlochleven and the surrounding loch and the mountains. So yeah, it's really nice. It's steep in parts and it's a consistent climb. So yeah, just be prepared for that.
And then you get up to the Larrig Moor, which means the big pass. And again, you are away from the sounds of traffic and you're walking on this old military road, which actually, I feel like I've got a real bone to pick with those old military roads. I really did not enjoy walking on them. The way that it's like these sort of stones that are like big, but not that big. So your feet are just sort of slipping all over them, and even though I have like grippy boots, they really killed my feet, basically. These old military roads, I just think, are an absolute killer on your feet. And
It's
no
almost-
wonder everyone ends up with blisters. And
It's almost like it's cobbled, but in a
Aye.
really, really rough way.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like imagine a cobbled, but with like lots of cobbles missing and mismatched stones
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Anyways, absolutely gorgeous, surrounded by mountains and kind of going past these ruined croft buildings, and really, really enjoyed it there. Very, very peaceful, and it's the last section that's like that before your West Highland Way walk is going to end, so savour it. Perhaps you want to pick up a flapjack or a brownie from Kinlochleven like we did.
From the Ice Factor Cafe
yeah.
specifically.
And enjoy a little picnic while you're up there, but I would say don't make the same mistake that I did and get the brownie, get the flapjack. Oft, I thought he was foolish for not getting that brownie, and in my face, that was the tastiest flapjack that we've ever had.
I mean, more than once, Kim said, like, why did you get flapjack? Why did you get flapjack? And even while we were getting them out to eat, she was just like, you should have got brownie, you made a mistake.
Laughing in his face, so I was, and then, more fool me.
Yeah, anyway, it was delicious. No guarantee it would be the same next time. I don't know who makes them, if they make them differently, whatever, but it was good. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, so enjoy the Larrig Moor. It's extremely beautiful and peaceful, and then when you leave it, you'll kind of turn the corner, and soon after you will be faced with Ben Nevis, the highest mountain in Scotland, indeed in the whole of the UK, and quite the sight for ending your trip on. The sun was shining, it looked gorgeous, but inside I was dying. My feet were absolutely killing me. I'd forgotten to stock up on paracetamol at the Co-op in Kinlochleven, and that's the first day I had to walk without the help of painkillers. And my feet were just like throbbing like this.
I mean, I honestly couldn't believe it. Like, Kim going anywhere without paracetamol is just like an unheard of thing.
That's a
So
standard in my purse.
yeah, that definitely made it more difficult for you.
Yeah. So by the time we got to the area around Deardail Fort, I was just about to cry from the throbbing and the pain in my feet. And so thankful that we found that camp spot, or rather he ran up the hill and found us a camp spot, and then I sort of hobbled up there. It was a wee bit mossy, a wee bit spongy, a wee bit wet, but we had amazing views of Ben Nevis. It was really, really spectacular. We just crashed out, didn't we? I actually just ate a packet of crisps and some wrap for dinner that night. You had a proper
I had a
fire
fire
pot.
pot, yeah.
Yeah, and you got stuck in with a proper dehydrated meal, but I was like, I'm just going to eat these crisps actually. That's what's making me happy right now.
Day 8 for us was from that campsite below Deardail Fort down into Fort William to finish the trail. It was around 4.5 to 5 miles, 7 to 8 kilometres.
After our very atmospheric morning with all the clouds and the mist sort of coming in and out of Ben Nevis, packed up for our final descent into Fort William. Honestly, it's nothing special. You're just going down on a gravel road, then on a forest track, and then actually finishing on the pavement alongside the road for the last couple of miles. You could take an alternative route, just sort of carrying on around Cow Hill and descending into Fort William that way, but we wanted to just stick to the official route, didn't we? And just see what it was all about. And nothing special, a functional end, but a fine enough one. And I mean, it took about an hour and a half or something. It wasn't too long.
It's just walking into Fort William.
Yeah, and obviously you get that sense of accomplishment at the end, which is quite nice. And I was actually really looking forward to having a pint and a pizza at the Black Isle Bar, which is so conveniently situated right behind the weedy sore foot walker statue, but unfortunately they didn't open till 12 and we finished too early in the morning. But we did nip up to the Highlands cinema and get an excellent pizza and a pint there instead. That was our itinerary, that was the way that we did it, which kind of suited us because we were wild camping, so we wanted to always be stopping a little bit before or a little bit after the main settlements. That doesn't necessarily work for everyone else though, so we have put together what we think would be the ideal suggested itineraries for like 5, 6, 7 and 8 days walking the West Highland Way. Check it out on the Ultimate Guide to the West Highland Way that we have on the blog, linked up there, and you can find the perfect route for you.
In the guide we also include sections on what to pack, accommodation, how much it costs to do the West Highland Way, all the transport information that you might need, so pretty much everything you need to know.
Yeah. So we won't go into too much detail about that just now, just check it out on the blog post. If you've got any questions you can drop them in the comments below and we will get back to you as well. In terms of filming this, if you're interested in that kind of side of it, we shot everything on our Sony a7 III camera with our trusty Peak Design travel tripods, which is really good for backpacking with and on-the-go filmmaking like this. Dell is basically the absolute filming master on things like this. For me, I'm not the fittest person, to be honest, so just actually completing the walk and carrying my bag and all that jazz is like a struggle enough. He's doing all of that, and he's running back to set up the tripod, collect it after we've shot. You know, he does a lot of extra mileage. I don't know how much extra, but...
Crouch down, bend down with my big backpack on, setting up low shots and all sorts of different things.
If like me, you actually would like to see a bit of that, do stick around till the end of this video for what I like to call Dell Comedy Montage. Sometimes I enjoy that more than the actual hiking film. What else did we use? The Rode Video Mic Pro is what we use on top for recording the audio.
We just got a new drone,
Yeah.
the Mavic Air 2S, which we managed to try out for the first time. Had a few niggles, things that I hadn't really prepared for. But
Turns out, even when you get a brand new top of the range drone, you kind of use like an ancient iPhone 6 to really operate it well. That was a bit
well,
of an
I mean,
issue.
that wasn't a huge surprise, but
Yeah, we have since managed to upgrade our phone thanks to a freebie from Dell's dad. So hopefully the next drone footage you see from us will be even better. A bit of practice required.
yeah.
Still.
Anyway, if you fancy knowing more about all the gear that we use to make these films and take our photos, etc., then you can check out the blog post. It is linked
Up here, a complete rundown of all of our filmmaking and photography gear. We edit it in Premiere Pro and use Epidemic Sound for all of our music. You can click the link down below if you want to check out Epidemic Sound and get 2 months free if you're making films for yourself and want some good music.
We really hope you enjoyed the film and that you found it useful. If you did, like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah, please do. All of those things really does help our channel to grow. It shows YouTube that we're doing something that people enjoy, and they will start showing it to more people who enjoy this kind of thing as well. And if you do like what we do and you'd like to see us continue making things like this, please do consider supporting us via our Patreon community. We've recently launched it and we have a few patrons already, which we're extremely excited about and thankful for. And if you would like to support us as well, we would absolutely love it if you were to become one of our patrons. You can check out what we offer via the link up here and just kind of read a bit more about what we've been doing and what we're all about. And yeah, we hope that you would consider becoming one of our patrons. And that's about it, I think.
I think that's pretty much everything.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Cheerio.
Thanks again. Bye.
Wow.